What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte has been the man of the hour. I've loaded a couple videos about Dillian, but this one here to explain the other part of the interview. Of course, we got the AJ stuff out of the way, and he said AJ was avoiding the Deontay Wilder fight, yada, 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 but we haven't really touched on what else he had to say for his future opponents. He's mentioned Brazil. He would like to fight him, but that's up to Brazil. Brazil might not want to fight Dillian Whyte, which is understandable because he's waiting for that shot. He doesn't want to lose it by taking on a tough challenger like Dillian Whyte. However, I would love to see that fight because, again, it's a new matchup. To me, I don't give a damn who fights as long as it's a new matchup to see what these fighters can do with someone new, if that makes sense, guys. But what interests me, also continuing on this IFL interview, the interviewer asked him, he says, well, how about Luis Ortiz? Okay. And on my channel, I asked a discussion in the community, who would want to see that fight? Everyone wants to see that fight, and what made me suspicious is on how Dillian Whyte answered it. He was like, sure, but where was Luis Ortiz a couple years ago when he was in a good position? Now he's trying to fight. He's desperate. He wants this. He wants this fight now, and he's too old and this, that, and the other. But, my thing is, he goes on to say, well, Luis Ortiz, versus Brazil, he would rather pick Brazil because Brazil fought in the UK, so the UK fans are aware of him. Okay, fair enough, because he did fight Joshua there. But then he goes on to say, well, Luis Ortiz doesn't speak English. That what made me kind of, I was like, okay, that's weird, because I remember Deontay Wilder said similar things about building up a fight. And my thing is, maybe I took personal offense, but I'm like, well, what would his language, his first primary language, have to do with a fight? I guess with the communication or whatever, but Luis Ortiz speaks pretty good English. He was talking pretty good to his last challenger that he fought, and he's been here a while, and I don't see why that would matter if that was the case. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's a cop-out to me, is many guys and people and the resume that's on Dillian Whyte's list. I don't see why everyone stops or says, yeah, but where was he then? We're not asking what about 2 years ago. We're asking about now. These fighters, they like to duck Ortiz, and it's like, okay, give this guy a shot. You call him old. I'll say it again and again, but bring in his language, his primary language into certain things. Like what would that have? You have, look at Canelo. He can build a fight. That has nothing to do. Look at Trinidad. Look at Chavez, Julio Cesar Chavez. All these fights get made that have nothing to do with language, a language barrier. It doesn't have anything to do with selling a fight. If a guy has an interpreter there, that interpreter, look at Lomachenko, right? There's another guy, Usyk. He never said that about Usyk. Usyk doesn't speak English, right? So what does that have to do with anything? But according to Dillian Whyte, he would say, oh, I would maul Usyk. I would beat Usyk up. I would roughen him up and all this and that. But then, then it comes to Ortiz. It's like, okay, oh, he doesn't speak English, so the fight wouldn't build, the general public. You're the diehard fans and you guys wouldn't know. No, a lot of people know Ortiz. Why? Because he fought Wilder. So the people that knew Wilder knew that he got Wilder's ass in trouble. Knew that this guy here, regardless of how old he is still dangerous. And it just seems to me that these people want to constantly, and I mean these people, I mean Dillian Whyte and Brazil and other people. You heard of Joyce. Joyce was talking about calling out Luis Ortiz. You ain't heard shit since Ortiz said, okay, you're going to have your first loss. You know what I'm saying? You ain't heard shit else. The last thing you heard about Joyce, yeah, he's in the top 5. So I think he wouldn't win of the WBA, okay, sanctioning body, okay. But you haven't heard anything else from Joyce, you know, in reference of fighting Luis Ortiz. You know, these guys talk a good game, but then when it comes to really fighting Ortiz, you know what I mean? That's not, it doesn't look like. I don't know if Ortiz has responded back from what Joshua said. He should. You know, I'll do some digging for you guys. I'll find out, you know, if we heard anything, right? But Dillian Whyte wants to avoid Ortiz. And, you know, I see the appeal because he was like, well, what would that matter? What would he get for fighting Ortiz? Well, he would get recognition, you know, and he could definitely get a shot at Deontay Wilder, right? Because if he beats Ortiz, that kills any credibility that Wilder has, because he hasn't won since then. I don't see why he can't understand that. And, you know, I don't see why people haven't figured that out. But, to let you guys know that key to success for Dillian Whyte is a hard road, but he's used to having a hard road. When you lose to a guy, then that guy becomes champion. Then, then you work your ass off to get to a certain rank in the WBC. A lot of people call it we be crooks, right? But then you have mandatory, then another mandatory. It sounds suspicious, but the only thing that you can do is keep on fighting. That's the only thing that you have to look forward to, is to keep fighting and to keep beating these guys. And he has to fight guys like Luis Ortiz. He says he doesn't, which he probably doesn't, but it would help him if he wants to get a fight with Deontay Wilder, because you would break the only credibility Deontay Wilder has, because that's his best win. Matter of fact, that's his only solid win, really. You know what I mean? And you got Spilka and all those guys under that, but, Stavern. But those guys are not, nowhere near Ortiz. And those guys ducked Ortiz, okay? So, yeah, you fought the guy that everyone else ducked, but you haven't done anything since then but draw with a guy that's been sitting on his ass for 3 years. So if Whyte wants that fight with Deontay like he claims, okay, and that's if he doesn't get the fight with Joshua, because he's in a good position. He knocked out Chisora, but really that should have been Ortiz. You see what I'm saying? Honestly, if you ask me. Not taking nothing away from the fight, but that should have been Ortiz he fought. You see what I'm saying? So, and then if he offered him money in last summer, why can't he offer him another offer? You see what I'm saying? It's like something's fishy about that. I feel that, he doesn't speak English or another language doesn't have anything to do with making a fight. Okay. But anyway, that's my counterpunch on that. You guys tell me what you think about Dillian Whyte. Is he ducking, or, does he have some legitimacy? Is there some hesitance there? I don't know. You guys tell me. Leave it below in the comments. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.